Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome inside The Lock Shop. Nielsen and Hustler back with you once again. As always, The Lock Shop is brought to you by our wonderful partners at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today, coolbet.com. Enter the bonus code LOCKSHOP. You'll get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200, and then you could come get some winners with us. Huss, what's up, buddy? How are you, man?
Dusty, I'm doing very, very well. What a weekend it was. The Lock Shop golf drought is over after such a hot finish to the season. We hit, second or third place in like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. The drought is over. Shout out to my guy, Scotty Scheffler, the new #1 player in the world.
Wow.
After winning the match play, coming in at 20-1 was awesome. And man, and just think about this guy. Like, he came into this season having never won on the PGA Tour. He had that incredible performance at the Ryder Cup. And to be honest, that was the reason. I vividly remember just how incredible he was at the Ryder. I thought, I'm going to back him in the match play. He ended up winning it. But, I mean, 3 wins now in the last 4 or 5 weeks on tour. And, Scotty Scheffler, from a guy like, I wonder when he's going to win, is winning everything right now. And we're getting into major season. He's '1 in the world. I mean, just a wild weekend, and we talked about it last Tuesday. Such a fun event from a betting standpoint. And, hit a few beauties on the weekend. And I got to give a shout-out to Corey Connors as well. Connors, getting third place in that event, beating DJ in the 3-4 matchup. He was phenomenal. And I know we'll get to the Valero coming up, but I have a feeling we might be talking about Corey Connors for this week as well, considering the way he played on the weekend in Austin.
I hit that bet builder last night on the Oilers. I needed a dry settle goal. The rest of it was no sweat. 40 minutes in, I was like, this is done. Dry settle's got to bury one. And he had a couple of chances that I was just like, how is he not scoring? It's not meant to be the night. And then Jesse Puljujarvi sets him up for a tap-in. So that was nice. That was a nice way to kind of start the week. Your Sunday night, you kind of build up the account a little bit. And before we went on, you said you hit the old sake bomb in the little disc golf over the weekend too. What a guy.
You know what? It was awesome. There was a lot of green in the bet history this weekend, but I was looking at it and I was looking at my total and thought, wait a second, I'm not accounting for something. It's higher than I expected it. I was looking all back and then I kept going back and all of a sudden, lo and behold, Ricky Wysocki, the sake bomb, coming out on top of the Texas Disc Golf Open Championship at 5-1. What can you say? Sometimes when you're rolling hot, you're rolling hot. And this last little while for us has been great. I was watching that game last night and following your bet builder, and it looked like it was all but done. And then I, was going down the list. I'm like, wait a second. The Oilers have 5 goals and Draisaitl doesn't have one. And like 2 minutes later, at the end of the second, he went in with McDavid all alone. I'm like, shoot it, Leon, shoot it. He passed it over. McDavid didn't even get it on. So I thought that might sink you. But yes, your guy, Jesse Puljujarvi, setting up Draisaitl to get it done. Another winner for the Lock Shop. I know there was a bunch of people that jumped on that one, saw a few tweets. So that was a very nice way to start off the week. And I'll say this, speaking of starting off the week, I know you weren't on the air, but I listened to the start of Low Tide show yesterday.
Yeah.
When Hernan was dropping the lines. And listen, I didn't know that there could be someone that gets as horny about Puljujarvi as you, but Low Tide might have been that guy when they announced that he was on the top line. So anyways, good times. I'm looking forward to these picks tonight and keeping this run going.
We haven't even talked about it yet, but we had 4 March Madness picks this weekend, not money line, all against the spread, and we went 4 for 4 on the Madness as well. So we'll get to some March Madness, obviously, on Friday. The Duke Blue Devils on a magical run. They get North Carolina somehow for the first time in tournament history.
Yeah.
Coach K could not go out to North Carolina in the only time he plays them in the tournament. Like, that can't happen. Duke's got to win that game. So
well, and didn't North Carolina beat them in their conference tournament?
No, they beat them at the in the final game at Cameron Indoor. That was regular season. They lost to Virginia Tech, I think, in the ACC final. So yeah, there's a revenge game coming here for Coach K. To be honest with you, buddy, I won't be able to forget that one. If they lose to North Carolina in Coach K's final game ever, that's the ultimate North Carolina FU. Like, it can't happen. They have to win that game. Oh, I'm already stressing about it, and it's early in the week. All right, so we got some NBA picks coming up. We got the Valero Texas Open we're going to get to as well. But let's start with some Tuesday night plays around the National Hockey League. And, Hush, you got 3 plays here. Some big-time games tonight I really like. And then I've kind of built a little plus 282 parlay that I probably won't bet individually. But so we got 2 different ways to attack the NHL tonight. You go first here, buddy. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with money lines. I really do prefer betting that, although, sometimes we'll get into puck lines and some more exotic ones. But with the games we've got on the slate tonight, I mean, I'm more than willing just to go and drop some teams to win the game and watch them. Hope it out. Boston, Toronto, what an awesome matchup. These teams very, very close right now in the standings. And, listen, the Leafs have sort of been on-off lately. They'll win a game, they'll lose a game. Boston is one of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League, and they continue to trend upwards going into the playoffs. The Leafs, to their credit, beat Florida last time out, but they've also had, some up and down games. Listen, I'm going with Boston in this game. I think they're a hotter team. I think they're more consistent right now, but I do think this is going to be a really tight game, and this is part of the reason why I think we're seeing such a close line. I know I did make this last night. We'll see if this changed at all. Okay, I got a bit better of a number last night. Boston's now minus 127. This game is in Boston, by the way. This is Leafs at the Bruins. So Bruins right now minus 127, Leafs plus 108. But I love the way the Boston Bruins has been playing, and I'm going to roll with them. You're just looking at their last 4 games. They've beaten the Islanders, beaten the Lightning, beating the Habs, and beating the Jets. I mean, those last 2 games, Lightning and Islanders in particular, very impressive. Back at home right now, continuing this homestand. I like Boston to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Another incredible matchup, and this could very well be a game we're seeing play for a trip to the Stanley Cup in the Final Four. The Carolina Hurricanes going up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, the Canes had a big, big win last night, 6-1. They crushed the St. Louis Blues earlier on the road as well, 7-2. But I'm sort of thinking that the Lightning tonight are certainly they're in a better spot right now with Carolina having to play last night and then travel to Tampa, getting ready for this game tonight. And Tampa's coming off a couple nice wins. I mean, listen, 2-1 against the Red Wings. No one's going to give you too much credit for that one. But 4-1 in New York against the improving Islanders. And this after they lost 3 games in a row. So I think sort of, getting more comfortable after the trade deadline, playing the Carolina Hurricanes in a tough spot. Give me the Lightning at minus 143. And then we go down to the late game tonight. What a matchup this is. Colorado at Calgary. I don't need to tell you about what Calgary's capable of. I mean, I think anyone saw that absolutely ridiculous Battle of Alberta on Saturday night knows that they can put up. But part of me thinks that maybe they sort of blew their load, so to speak, earlier in the week. I mean, 9 goals, it's tough to continue going. And certainly you're going up against a much better team, a Colorado team that I think is very much cognizant to the fact that this is a team they're going to need to beat in all likelihood if they want to make it out of the West into the Stanley Cup Finals. So, Colorado on the road at plus 103. I think there's great value on that. I mean, this is just a nod to Calgary of how well they've been playing so far this season and where they're at right now, that the Avalanche are plus money, frankly, against anybody in the Western Conference. So we're going to take the Avalanche right now at plus 103. Was plus 102 last night. I did put these 3 games into a money line parlay at plus 529. Actually, that's what it was last night. Let's give you a little update on it because the Bruins number has gone down just slightly. Tampa's still in the same spot. And we've got the Avalanche here. And so plus 517. More than 5-1 right now if you parlay Tampa, Boston, and the Colorado Avalanche tonight. Those are my 3 selections on the ice this evening in the lock shop.
Yeah, that's a nice one. I mean, over 5-1 on those 3 games tonight. That'd be nice to hit. I'm playing a little bit safer. Like I said, I'm probably not going to Dallas. Maybe I'll give it a sprinkle here just on the money line anyway. But I'm on Minnesota in regulation, minus 175 at home against Philly. Minnesota, we know they started the season red hot. They kind of went through some ups and downs. They've won 6 in a row. Their last 5, actually, they scored 3 goals in every single game. It's just been like 3-2, 3-2, 3-1, 3-2 wins. They had a 4-goal game at the beginning of this stretch, but they've been playing extremely well, and they get the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. So I'm going to go Minnesota to keep the heater going, minus 175 in regulation. I'm going to Dallas on the money line against an Anaheim team that's lost 9 in a row. Like, you always talk about it with Anaheim. Oh, they're sellers. Like, and I always feel like in the media we just talk about it. We're like, well, now they might just mail it in because they've sold. Well, the Ducks appear to have mailed it in because they sold off a bunch of pieces. So I'm going to ride. Dallas is fighting for playoff positioning, fighting for their playoff lives here. So I like Dallas minus 169 against an Anaheim team that just cannot buy a win to save its life right now. And in fact, I don't think Anaheim, most of their losses have been by 2 goals here over this stretch of 9. So it's not even like they've been super close. And then I'm going to go Florida over 3.5 goals against the Montreal Canadiens. That's minus 189. We know Florida can score like 4 goals per game. They've scored at least 4 in 2 of their last 3. One of those games was against the Montreal Canadiens. They're also coming off that loss to Toronto. So, I think the Florida Panthers are in a spot here where they want to get it right. And if the Florida Panthers want to score goals, if they want to score 4 goals tonight, Montreal's not stopping them. So I think Florida's going to do that. So I'm a mini in regulation, minus 175. Florida over 3.5 goals as the favorite against the Habs. And then Dallas against a struggling Ducks team, minus 169. You put it all together, and it's going to parlay out to plus 282 in the National Hockey League tonight.
Dude, the thing that absolutely blows me away is that the Florida Panthers are minus 189 to score 4 or more goals tonight. I mean, I realize that the Habs aren't very good and the Panthers have scored so many, but that just seems like a number that, honestly would only be hung on a couple teams in the league with a special opponent. And that certainly is the Panthers. And you're right about Anaheim. I mean, we're sitting here, stressing on every game for the Winnipeg Jets right now. And the weird thing about the schedule for the Jets that really sucks, the fact that their head-to-head games against all the teams they're chasing are pretty much done. They're done with Edmonton. They've got 1 game against LA, no more games against Vancouver, and most importantly, no more games against the Dallas Stars. And I'm looking at the Dallas schedule. They play like 13 games against non-playoff teams. They got 3 against Anaheim. So, hopefully for the playoff chances around here in the middle of the country, Anaheim can sort of get it together, but they certainly haven't been trending in the right direction. And Dallas, to their credit, I mean, somehow finds a way to win. They've had some big wins lately, and they're going to need it right now because one of these teams pushing is going to make a run. But I think it's going to take like 95, 96 points to probably make the playoffs in the West right now. So we'll make for some good games down the stretch, even if Dallas is playing the likes of the Anaheim Ducks quite often before the end of the regular season.
All right, let's slide over to the NBA tonight. We got 4 plays for you. We're both on this Jazz game, and I put these picks in last night. This line has actually moved 2 points. The Jazz last night, when I put this in, they were +1 underdog. As of this morning, they're a 1-point favorite against the Los Angeles Clippers. So the line has moved. I had the Jazz +1. I'm just going to ride with the Jazz here. I know you got the Jazz money line at minus 103. So I think we're both on the Jazz. Has it been confirmed if Paul George is returning yet? I know they were looking at Paul George possibly returning for this game. The Jazz are a little bit banged up. They've been sliding as of late, but the Clippers have been losing games by like 15, 20, 25 points. So I'm on the Jazz here. I'll take whether it's +1, -1, or the money line. I think the Jazz are a play here, Huss, and you're on the Jazz as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of these teams have struggled, but no one's struggling quite like the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers have won 2 of their last 10. They've lost 5 in a row and are coming off absolute routs at the hands of the 76ers, the Nuggets, and these Jazz. Now, the Jazz, for their part, that was the last time they won a game because they have dropped, I believe, 3 or 4 in a row since then. They lost to the Mavs, the Hornets, tough loss. And then, Celtics and Nets, those are pretty solid teams. I would suggest, and I don't have an update on this, but I would suggest that it's probably not good news for Paul George. That's probably why the reason when I got this at minus 103, that's flipped, as you just mentioned. Now it's Jazz minus 114 and the Clippers minus 103. But listen, the bottom line is the Clippers absolutely stink. The Jazz, I think, have much more going for them right now. And by the way, just kind of a non-question about our non-statement about these games tonight, but don't look now, but the Lakers have a half-game lead on the Spurs for 10th spot in the West. They could possibly actually miss the playoffs.
Buddy, they blew a 20-point lead in the second half against the Pelicans, the one team they couldn't lose to. Now, LeBron messed up his ankle in that game, but man, he's still at 39. I mean, they just need somebody else to contribute. It's ridiculous.
Well, and this is why I've had very good success betting Laker games.
You are the Laker whisperer.
The whisperer, and the whispers were loud in my ear yesterday. Go against the Lakers in this game tonight. I ended up getting Dallas at 11.5. I've seen it go to 12.5. It's sort of 12 right now. So anyways, if you can get it under 12, you're probably getting a good number. Here's the bottom line. The Lakers are LeBron James. We've discussed this, and that last time it was like, hey, LeBron's going to have a big game. He will single-handedly keep his team in this one. The fact that his ankle is still beat up, and they're in such a critical point in the season, they may have to cut their losses tonight, depending on, and I mean, look ahead to the fact that they absolutely are going to need him playing and playing a lot as you get down the stretch to make sure you're even in the damn playoff or play in, and then presumably, hopefully winning and going forward. So up against Dallas, I mean, Dallas is obviously a clearly better team. They should be a much bigger favorite against Dallas. Now, the Lakers, if playing well, could certainly cover this number. But I do have the feeling that if this game starts getting away from them a little bit, I think this is probably a time where it makes a lot of sense to sit LeBron down. Don't bang up his ankle in a loss to the Mavericks and be ready for some future games. So I'm taking the Mavs minus 11.5 in this night to cover against the Lakers. I think they run away with it. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if LeBron's minutes are considerably less than they would be in a normal game, because he's going to have to put this team on his back to get them into the play-in in the playoffs. The Spurs have won 4 in a row right now. So I don't think that they can put too much into this game if LeBron's not at 100%. And I think that bodes very well for the Mavs to cover the number.
The other game that I want to get into is just the Bucks and 76ers, just because I want a piece of this. I want to watch this game tonight. Yeah. Bucks and Sixers. It should be an excellent game. 76ers last night were minus 1.5 point favorite. I checked this morning. They're still 1.5 point favorite. They've both been playing pretty decent as of late. But I look at the Bucks, and this is why I'm going to side with the Sixers at home here by 1.5. I look at the Bucks, and their recent wins have come against Washington, Chicago, who's fallen off lately. They beat Sacramento. They beat a Utah team that we're both on tonight, but let's be honest, they're banged up and they've been struggling a bit lately. Their losses over their last 7 games were to Golden State earlier in March, good team. Minnesota, surprisingly better team this year than we expected them to be. They lost by 21 to Minnesota. And then they just got crushed 127-102 by Memphis, who's obviously a very good team as well. So I don't know if the Bucks have really beaten a great team lately, and I think they're playing a great team tonight in the 76ers. So I'm going to side with it. It should be a great game. Won't be shocked, obviously, if the Bucks win. But because of that, the recent, some of the bigger games they've had recently, they haven't just lost. They've kind of got smoked. I'm going to go with the 76ers minus 1.5 here at home to wrap up our association plays tonight.
I like this. Let me ask you this, because you're a big hoops guy and you live in an association city. Is this the most wide open the league has ever been in our lifetimes heading into the playoffs? Like, I can't think of a time where there wasn't a couple teams that were considered overwhelming favorites to be, the teams that are playing in the playoffs. And you might have 2 or 3 teams and then everybody else. But I mean, I look at the East right now, and I mean, the Heat are number 1. I certainly wouldn't be backing them as the best team. You've got the defending champion Bucks, the Celtics, who are injured right now, but when healthy, are maybe
really good lately. Yeah,
maybe as complete a team as you have, and of course, you've got the new look Sixers after the Simmons trade, with a guy that could very well be the MVP in Joel Embiid, and then teams like the Bulls and the Raptors that epitomize team basketball, but maybe don't have the star power of those other teams that can win any time. And then, for crying out loud, the Brooklyn Nets are in the 8th spot and will be coming in on the play-in. And then on the other side, no one gives enough respect to the Phoenix Suns. I'm not too sure why, but they're 61-14 on the season.
Lost in the final last year.
Far and away the best record in the league. Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies have been a great story, but I think until you really do it in the playoffs, people are waiting to see, even with 50 wins. Golden State and Dallas are sort of in that mix, Utah, and then teams that we expect to be the contenders going into this season are on the verge of being out of the playoffs in the two LA teams. So I'll say this. I think that the futures market for the NBA is as live as we have ever seen it at this point in the year. And I cannot wait to get into the NBA playoffs and see some of these series and how they go, because, unlike normal, you'll have massive, massive heavy favorites. I think, we could be nearing maybe not pick'em territory in some of these series, but some of the closest lines that, we've had in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the way you laid out the first question of like in our lifetime, is this the most open it's been? At first I was like, well, maybe not in our lifetime. But if you look at the 90s, it was Jordan. When Jordan wasn't there, it was Akeem. I mean, he won back-to-back titles. And the Bulls were pushed by the Jazz, but it was still the Bulls. Then post-Jordan, maybe it opened up a little bit, but then you had Shaq and Kobe with the Lakers, so everybody's always expecting that. Then you had Tim Duncan and the Spurs take over, and you always expected the Spurs to be there. And then, LeBron came along and made the finals for 10 consecutive seasons. And for 4 of those, it was against Golden State every year, and it was amazing. But I don't think it's a crazy statement to say that the NBA is more wide open this year than it has been in 30 years. Like if you look at it, and you said the future market, it's hot right now. You can go bet right now. It's up. The Suns plus 325. The Nets are still just plus 450. They're number 2 in the odds where they're at right now.
8th in the East right now.
Yeah, and they're plus 450. And then the Bucks, Celtics, Warriors, Sixers, Heat, Grizzlies, all from plus 700 to plus 1700. The Jazz, who we said are a very good team when healthy, they're at plus 2,500. The Nuggets are 25-1. The Mavericks are 35-1. The Lakers are plus 4,000 right now. And below them are a Bulls team that was the best team in the conference for the first half of the season. They're at plus 6,500, and the Raptors are at plus 10,000 right now. So it is it's wide open. I know when we get to the NBA playoffs, which aren't that far away, we'll have a nice little futures episode for sure.
No love for the Raptors. Listen, the way they play with their coach and whatnot, I think, well, put it this way, I'll be putting just something on right now on the Raptors at 100-1.
Yeah.
And the other team that we didn't mention going through, there's the Memphis Grizzlies, Dusty. They're number 2 in the West right now, and they are 17-1, trailing the Suns, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Warriors, Sixers, Heat as well. Ja Morant. This is a perfect example of sort of the Winnipeg effect in the NBA. Yeah. No one goes to Memphis. They are the small market. I mean, if it wasn't for Ja Morant and the way they're playing, no one would pay attention to the Grizzlies. And people take a long time to sort of come around and realize just how good a team is before they almost have to smack you in the face in the playoffs to do it. So I would suggest, although I do think the Suns are still the team to beat in the West, that the number 2 team, Memphis, at 17-1 is some pretty good value if you're looking at an NBA future right now.
As you were talking in the last 15 seconds, I went and put $20 on the Grizzlies at 17-1 because that's the best number you're going to see for them the rest of the way. When these things are reset, they're going to be more like, I would think, 12-1 or 10-1. So 20 pays 340 or something like that. So, yeah, it's worth a little. So I hope they win it. Now we can look back and be like, remember when we were talking about the futures and I put 20 on the Grizzlies? Well, it paid off back on March 29th. So there you go. There's some plays in the NBA tonight. Obviously, always a lot going on with the association from a betting perspective. Let's slide over to the Valero Texas Open, where I'm just going to lay this out for you. This is how it went down for me. Okay, so I'm off this week. I'm still doing like 8 podcasts and a bunch of card breaks, but I'm not doing my morning show. So I have a little bit more time. I'm not a scramble for picks. So last night I'm diving into this, and I locked in my picks last night. I had Corey Connors and I had Tony Finau. And I was just, so then you sent yours over and I was just like, well, I'm sticking with Finau. We can ride on Finau together. But I flipped off of Corey Connors because I didn't want us to have 2 of the same picks. But so I just want to fully endorse that I'm 100% behind your Corey Connors pick. I decided to flip over to Adam Hadwin, who's getting great value, I think, at 39-1 with what he's capable of as well. So, yeah, I'm totally with 2 of your picks. It was funny. It's the first time ever that you sent your picks over, and I was like, damn it, we got 2 of the same. Usually sometimes we'll have 1, but we were both on Connors and Finau. It was interesting how it played out.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I sort of mentioned Corey Connors with giving the dap on the 3rd place finish at the match play. I mean, he was absolutely dialed in. We know we're just a couple of weeks away from the Masters. But I think what's most interesting is sort of the intersection of current form with past performance. And let's not forget that it was 3 years ago to the week that Corey Connors' life changed when he won the Valero Texas Open for the first time on PGA Tour, and earned himself a trip into the Masters the following week as the last man in. So, I mean, I watched a lot of Corey on the weekend. I mean, he was playing phenomenally and putting well, which, you know, I mean, the guy can hit irons with the best of them, but you got to have them drop. And they were dropping for him in the match play. If he can carry that into the Valero, a place where he's had his greatest success as a PGA Tour player, I think there's a lot of reason to think that he could be a contender. And then another guy that I watched a ton that ended up losing to Corey Connors, he was one of my other picks last week, was Answer. And, you know, Dusty, the way it was shaping up into the final 8, I mean, I had Scheffler at 21 on one side and Answer at 64 on the other side, and was praying, you know, maybe they could meet in the final and have a guaranteed W. It didn't go that way, but I will say this. Corey Connors was out of his mind to beat playing to get one over on Abe Answer. I think Answer's form is still right there. You know that he's gearing up for the Masters and, you know, playing this event and keeping things going. I really do think that we're going to be talking about him on Sunday. So at the top of the leaderboard, those are my 2 selections. And then, you know, I'm going to go back to Tony. And Tony has not had a great season so far this year. But like many, especially guys that have now won on tour, that have contended in majors, I think that he sees his game. He has a plan to really sort of peak for the big events. And, of course, that's Augusta right around the corner. So, Finau, and by the way, this has been bet down because I actually did get him at 44-1 last night.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've a lot of these changed just since last night because Connors was at 18-1. He's now at 20-1. And then, obviously, a big move on Finau.
Yeah, so Finau's gone down from 44 to 39, but a player of his pedigree, we're just sort of waiting for him to break out, and I could not jump on him. But, I mean, the guys that I'm feeling the best about, you know, if you had to put a gun to my head and take one pick or two, it's definitely the first 2 guys that I mentioned, Corey Connors and Abraham Answer. Other guys, just to mention before you make your picks, Spieth won it last year. He's at 14-1. And Rory McIlroy was at 8. He's now at 9-1. He, of course, skipped the match play. I don't think he liked the way that sets up for preparation for Augusta. So I think that's a big reason why he's playing the Valero Texas Open right now as the favorite. Hideki's also in at 2,000 or plus 2,000 or 20-1. And then Bryson DeChambeau, and this is interesting. Can you imagine getting a number like 29-1 on DeChambeau in a field like this last year? Well, no, but no one's even sure that he's going to be able to play Augusta right now. It seems like he's gutting through these injuries, and we'll see what sort of Bryson we have, but no one, I think, is very confident that he's going to have much in. So pretty interesting leaderboard right now as we get ready. Fill us in on where you're going, and I know you do support Corey Connors.
Yeah, I'm totally everything you said about Tony Finau. I'm on board with Finau this week. Speaking of Augusta, did we not see Tiger roll in today? Is that what I saw trending on Twitter? Tiger getting off the jet.
At the start of the day, it was, at least from the people I follow, about a half a dozen pictures of the plane tracker going from Florida up past Jacksonville to potentially Augusta. Someone said, oh, he's actually going to Europe. No, he wasn't. There's a picture of Tiger showing up and rolling in there right now. And you know what's funny? I saw a picture of just a lady in town got a picture with Rory McIlroy last night. So who knows? Maybe it's Tiger and Rory playing a practice round today at Augusta.
Oh, wouldn't that be something? Televise that. Give us a Tiger Rory practice round at Augusta on TV today. Million viewers.
You had Junior in there, Charlie Woods, and you would have bigger ratings if those 3 guys were playing than just about anything else on television for the day, unless, of course, some sort of meeting or intervention between Will Smith and Chris Rock.
And on the 18th green, Will Smith comes up and slaps Tiger in the face. That was something. All right, so Adam Hadwin, I mean, at 39-1, obviously, I mean, his putter's absolutely ridiculous. And he's been playing pretty well lately. What do you have? T9 at TPC Sawgrass, T7 at Copperhead. He was T23 here at the Valero Texas Open last year. So, you know, he's familiar with it. He's had limited success. But I'll go with Hadwin at 39-1. I'm on Chris Kirk. This number's actually moved on Kirk since last night. It's at 34-1 now. I think last night it was 39-1. But he's played well here. He's 5 for 7 making the cut. He's got 3 top 10s and a T13. So he's been top 15 4 times here at Valero, and he's been playing well as of late. Phoenix, T14, Honda T7, Palmer Invitational, T5. So this is a guy who has had success at the course before and has been playing well as of late. Seems like a little bit of a sexy pick with a few of the other golf analysts that I do follow. And then, just because we both had Finau, I thought, I'll throw in a little bit of a longer shot. And I'm going to go with Charlie Hoffman, who's at 74-1, Huss. And here's his history: 11 trips to TPC San Antonio. He won it in 2016. He's got 3 seconds, and he's got a T3 among his 9 top 15. So he's been there 11 times. He's finished top 15 9 of those times. This is one of those situations where I don't care how he's playing lately. The fact that he's had success at this course a lot in the past at 74-1 is like a bonus pick this week. I'll throw Hoffman in there at 74-1.
Yeah, the Hoffman. I'm just wondering where is Charlie Hoffman in the official world golf rankings? Because this, of course, is one of these weeks. I'm just pulling up old Charlie right now. Okay, he's world number 8, 108. So he's not even in it. So he's one of those guys that would love to play Augusta, and he's basically got to win it to get in it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was runner-up to Spieth in the last time, and I know he's always been around. So Hoffman, you want to talk about horses for courses? He's a guy that there's a few places where he shows up, and if he's dialed in, he will be right there near the top of the leaderboard. So I'm stunned, actually, that they're still hanging a 74-1 on Charlie Hoffman, considering what he's done at this tournament before. So, if you're looking further down the board on someone to throw a dart on, Hoff, not a bad look, considering what he's done on this course before as a former champion and 3-time runner-up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, do we have all the top 10s and top 5s? Are they all... Oh, yeah, here we are. I just want to see what Hoffman is for, let's see. Top 10, he's plus 500. And top 20, he's plus 215. So those are some other plays you can make with Hoffman for a guy who's been top 15 9 of the 11 times that he's played this event. There you go, Valero Texas Open. I will say, nothing against the Valero, but you see Tiger kind of roll into Augusta, and you're like, let's just bet the Masters. Let's get ready. I can't do another 7-8 days here, Huss. I need Augusta, man. It's time. Plus, we get opening day of Major League Baseball on the Thursday. It's going to be insane.
Well, okay, just quickly, while you brought it up, we've got a second here. Let's take a quick look at the Masters odds right now at CoolBet. Here we go. John Rahm, 11-1. Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, 14-1. Cam Smith, Morikawa, DJ, 16-1. Scotty Scheffler, Vic Hovland, Rory McIlroy, 18-1. Brooks Koepka, 20. Pat Cantlay and Xander Schauffele at 22-1. Those are the only players that are under 30. Then it goes to Bryson DeChambeau at 32. Hideki at 34. Zalatoris at 35. Sam Burns and Louis Oosthuizen at 40. Berger, 45. Finau, Day, Neiman, 50. Tiger Woods, 55. Along with Pat Reed, Adam Scott, all former champs there. Interesting. And Sung JM. And then we get into a group of 60s with Paul Casey, Lowry, Justin Rose, Tyrrell Hatton, Corey Connors and Bubba Watson are at 65. And then, Tommy Fleetwood. And Leishman at 70-1. Might not be a bad time to get in. And oh my God, Abe Answer at 80-1.
I just saw that too. I saw Answer at 80-1. I was like, what?
And here's what's interesting. And I guess I'll caution you. Some of these numbers look really good coming out the gate. We often do find that the real value, in fact, comes the week of the event after the initial bets are coming in, where a couple guys will go down and a bunch of other guys go up. But I'll be honest, I've looked at a number of other books, and I think these CoolBet lines are so competitive as to many of the other places and where other numbers are out. I'm not sure whether many of these will go up, barring an injury, a WD, some sort of things surrounding guys going into next week. But it's all up there right now. If you're not down with the Valero Texas Open, you can get right to the Masters and start getting that card ready for next week.
It's going to be good. I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. Oh, I just can't wait till next weekend. Huss, what do you got coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, buddy? What's coming up today?
What do we have today? Stephen Wino's going to join us. We'll be hitting all the big stories around the Board of Governors meetings, or the GM meetings, I should say. And we'll have the latest on the Jets. They're practicing and then heading out for back-to-back games against Buffalo and Toronto. Jeff Hamilton from the Free Press is going to join us. Big game for the Ice tonight. Moose are back at home. And I have a feeling we'll have a little more talk about the slap heard around the world. You weren't watching the Oscars, I can imagine. You were not.
No, so I just at my parents' place. Kids are in bed, kind of sit down. My sister and my parents like watching the Oscars, so they had it on, but we were like 45 minutes behind because we'd waited till the kids were asleep. So Gager texts me, goes, "Are you watching the Oscars?" And I said, "Well, we just kind of started. Why?" Like, nobody's ever texted me and been like, "Are you watching the Oscars?" And so I'm like, "Why? What's up?" He goes, "Just watch, buddy." So then I'm like, I can't wait. My parents are going to. So I kind of hop on Twitter and I'm like, holy shit, like, what is happening? So I knew what was coming and my parents didn't. So I was kind of watching my whole family as it all went down. And that alone made it priceless. Seeing my parents' reaction to Will Smith getting up and slapping Chris Rock across the face. I can't believe we saw that, buddy. Like, as far as memorable moments of live television, that's right up there for an all-time moment, man. That's nuts.
How is it not number one?
Yeah, it probably has to be, doesn't it?
Not number one. And listen, how does he not get kicked out? Like,
that's a fair point, too.
Is there anyone else who could walk up and open hand slap the host of the event across the face and then just walk back to his seat, yell at him a little bit more in the most awkward back and forth I've ever heard in my life, and then 10 minutes later walk up and accept the Best Actor award? It's the most insane thing I've ever seen, I've ever heard. I don't know what happened. And I guess I will say this. Like, I can't remember who it was saying this. I think this might have been on the Ringer Media podcast. But like, what the Oscars really needed was to have something like sports. I mean, like, when something like that happens, we bring in Mike Pereira to break down the rules. Right. Well, you know what? They're reviewing this right now for going on. Like, basically going on, well, Will Smith has just walked up and open hand slapped the host across the face. This should call for an immediate ejection here. We're going to go in with the people running the rules and see where things are at. But there's no mechanism for any of that. So everyone just stood there absolutely dumbfounded, saying, what the hell did they just watch? And then Chris Rock had to just keep going. Yeah, we're giving a documentary away or whatever, the award for the best documentary. And they just kept going. And from what I understand, it wasn't until like 15 minutes later when Amy Schumer went up and made some sort of joke about it that they sort of addressed it. And look, if you were just watching the American feed of it, I mean, a big part of it was missed.
Yeah.
Where, of course, we saw in the Australian and the Japanese that had every cringeworthy second of the interaction.
Can you imagine if that was in North America? Like, if they just, like, all of us watching North America seeing Will Smith being like, keep your wife's name out. It was muted for us, but man, I remember I was watching after, like, the Oscars finished and CBC News or CTV News or something was on, and I'm watching, and the anchor's like, and tonight, the winners weren't the biggest story of the Oscars as Will Smith went on stage and slapped Chris Rock. Will Smith would later go on to win Best Actor of the Year. I was just like, 2022, man. Here we go. Like,
well, the funniest thing about it is that, the joke was about the alopecia or whatever. Like, it wasn't like he was making jokes about Jada banging a bunch of other dudes or anything.
Which seems to be accepted, right? Like, it's like the relationship. I figure that Will Smith didn't really want to be in the open relationship, and this was like the last straw. Like, he's just like, I gotta slap somebody. Sorry, Chris. Like, boom, done. Like,
well,
it was,
listen, he was heartily laughing at the joke when it was initially delivered. And then he looked over and saw the death stare. And then I think it was like, oh my God, I've got to do something right now. It's quite obvious he fears her way more than Chris Rock or any sort of repercussions from what had happened. And Anyways, we will be talking about this forever.
Hey,
And
we'll be betting Oscars next year, buddy. There'll be some great lines next year.
You know what? I mean, listen, I don't watch movies, so I had no way to know this, but I know Bill Simmons and Jimmy Kimmel got on a coda at like 9 or 10 to 1 to win Best Picture 2 months ago. And it ended up winning. By the time they went off at the event, it was like minus 160. So, I mean, there is money to be made on some of these things. And yeah, you can bet these at CoolBet and a bunch of other spots. But as I said, not my area of expertise. More a disc golf guy, Dusty.
That's okay, too.
That's where I come in. PGA Tour and the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
That's going to do it for another episode of The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. Follow us on Twitter. Obviously, I'm at Nielsen TSN60. He's at Hustlerama. Give us a follow at Lock Shop Bets as well. If you've not yet signed up for an account at CoolBet, the presenting sponsor of The Lock Shop, all you have to do is go to coolbet.com, sign up for an account, enter the bonus code LOCKSHOP, and you get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. We'll be back with another episode of The Lock Shop on Friday. Hustle, I'll talk to you then, man.
Right on, Dusty. Enjoy the holiday.